G'day everyone and welcome to day 5 at the IPF Classic World Championships. Today we saw the 76 kilo and the 93 kilo lifters take to the platform, obviously the 76 kilo women and the 93 kilo men. We're going to jump straight into the recap and not waste any time. So we're firstly looking at the nominations. This is our women. Obviously our number one nomination is Carolina Tongotea, who has a total of 600 kilos. She achieved that actually at the Commonwealth Championships, the regional event in Oceania. Second place in the nominations is Jessica Bittner. Now, Jess achieved this total of 559 at, I'm actually not sure where she achieved that total, but she is the reigning world champion. Followed by her is Sitko Adgata. Now, these three lifters competed at the Sheffield Championships and had an awesome battle there. Below them is number 4 is Kimberly Warford. Amazing resume, multiple-time world champion from USVI. Sophia Ellis, Dana McNeil, Vilma Olsen, and Sarah Sanchez. So very strong list of lifters there. We're going to go straight into the lifting. You can pause the video if you need and check out their nomination totals. It obviously looks like that Carolina has the biggest nomination by a mile, and fair to say she is the favorite. But of course, you can never discount Jess and Agatha because they're absolute weapons, and as we know in sport, anything can happen. Okay, let's check out the lifting. We're going to go through squats. Firstly, of course, talking about the women. It was actually a really strong session in the squats. We saw almost everyone basically go 3 out of 3. So you'll see here, Sophia takes 3 out of 3 in squats. Her second attempt was 172.5. She takes 177.5, and that was a good lift. Kimberly Warford, she had 180 on the second attempt and jumped 5 kilos to this 185, and it just proved a little bit too heavy. So she got kind of stapled in the hole here, and so she finishes the day with 180 kilos. Jess Bittner, her second attempt, we're going to take a look at her second attempt while we're here, was 215 kilos. Because obviously she's one of our top candidates, and it was a pretty good lift. Very strong lift. As always, referees were being very strict on depth, and Jess is, I'm not going to say borderline, but she isn't the kind of person to absolutely sink him, so getting 3 white lights was great there. This is Carolina's opener, sorry. Kind of jumping around here at 215. Now, Carolina has a world record squat before this event at, I want to say 223.0 kilos. And so she takes 215 kilos as an opener. So if you're opening at 215 and the world record's 223, that's a pretty safe bet that the world record is going to go down, and spoiler alert, it does. So good opener there. Excuse me. She takes 222.5 on the second. And she has a great squat session as well. I mean, like I said, the quality in the squats were really great. Practically everyone went 3 out of 3 except for maybe 2 or 3 lifters, like Kim Walford and a couple of others. And so, really strong session. That's Carolina. And so you're watching that 222.5. What's the third going to be? We're going to see that in a second. We've got Sarah Sanchez. She also went 3 out of 3. This is 187.5. Nice lift there. So she goes 3 out of 3. So like I said, very good quality of lifting here. Agatha Sitko, now being the kind of like weaker deadlifter, especially compared to Carolina and Bittner at least, she's got a very strong deadlift, but less than them. She does have to put together a good subtotal. So she opened at 190 and then went to 195, which is a bit weird because a 5 kilo jump is just a bit small on these kinds of weights, and then jumped 2.5 kilos, which again was a bit weird, but it turned out to be the right call because this 197.5 kilo squat was not easy. We are looking at that here. This is 197.5. So the pole also goes 3 out of 3. Very important lifting. We have Dana McNeil of the USA. She went 195 and then 200. So we're watching that now. And I mean, like the quality of these lifters, like anyone could be a threat to take a podium place or to take a medal. And like I've said in a lot of these recaps already, if you make lifts, you're in a chance. And all these girls are going 3 out of 3. And while you can't obviously help if your opponents are missing lifts, if you're making lifts, at least it gives you the chance. At least it leaves open the door for other people to miss. All right, Vilma Olsen, this is 210. She also goes straight to 3, opening at 195, 202.5, and then ending at this 210. And just bit, now this is her last squat of 220 kilos. I believe she's a penultimate to lift, the second last to lift, followed by Carolina, obviously. Okay, this is 220 kilos. So a 5 kilo increase from her second, which we saw earlier, of 215, and that was good. 3 out of 3. And that these 5 kilos that you make on your third is just so important for your total, as we know. And then Carolina takes 225.5. So this is for a world record. Obviously, we know the world record is 223. And you know, the commentators made a big deal about this, and it's important to understand that this extra half kilos effectively acts as an extra 2.5 kilos in the end of the day, because when you're able to break a world record, you're able to take it by half kilo increments. But if you're deadlifting that's below the world record, you can obviously choose between 2.5 kilo increments. And so let's say you need 240 kilos to match the total. But if someone goes up by half a kilo earlier in the day, then you're going to need 242.5. You need an extra 2.5 later. So effectively, an extra 500 grams here earns you an extra 2.5 kilos later on, especially when you're the heavier lifter, because otherwise your opponent would be able to tie you on total and just beat you on body weight. But when you take that half kilos, you're able to push them up an extra 2.5. And Carolina gets this. So she breaks the world record. That's her lift there. And she is the heaviest lifter of our podium. So Carolina, you can see the results here. And just to let you know, Carolina is the heaviest of the group, or not of the group, but at least of the podium finishers. Jess is the second heaviest, and Agata, Agata is the second heaviest, and Jess is the, oh, it's right here, right, 765. And you can see Agata is 7560, so 500 grams lighter, and then Jess is a little bit lighter than that. And so when you're the heavier lifter, that extra half kilo really makes a difference. Okay, onto bench press. Agata took 153 kilos on her second attempt. This was for a world record. Now, I will say, and I mean this as politely as I can, the standard of bench wasn't amazing in this class. A lot of the bench presses were lifting very similar weights to the 63 kilo class. I mean, obviously, technically speaking, all very sound, but in terms of actual performance, wasn't amazing, other than Agata. And she hits this 153. Now, you can't hear it, obviously, but on the platform, it looked like she pressed very quickly, and it looked like she pressed with the press call. And only the chief referee gave her a red light for it. So you'll see the lights in a second. You can obviously can't hear that, but the chief referee gives her a red light. The side referees give her whites. And I suspect the side referees just didn't hear it. Which is kind of a bit of a shame, because the referees are sitting quite far back, and makes me wonder, should they be sitting a bit closer? Like, they're sitting far back to give space to the, to the camera crew and all this kind of stuff. But at what cost? Hard to say. Anyway, she gets that lift. There was no jury overturn. This is Dana, of course, with 102.5. This is her last lift on the bench press. She's gone 92.5, 97.5, and 102.5. She fights this one up. And you can kind of see she's got a bit of a funky grip there. It's like a little bit uneven. She gets 2 highlights, but this actually gets overruled. I'm still not sure what the overrule is. Maybe it's downward motion. It's very close. I think the commentators mentioned that maybe it was a bit of a hip lift, like a butt lift. But the curious thing for me is that she got 1 red light. You can see that down here. She got 1 red light for blue, which is usually downward motion, not for a butt lift. And the right side gave it a good lift. So, I mean, I presume the jury saw a side angle that we don't get to see. But anyway, that lift gets overturned. So she actually finishes on 2 out of 3 on bench. Jess takes 107.5. This is her third attempt. And she absolutely smokes this. And so at the end of bench, Jess is 6 out of 6. That's exactly where you want to be when you are in a very tight competition. So she'd be happy with that. Kim Wolford, she goes for 115. Now, I don't think Kim was ever realistically going to be a strong contender for winning the competition. But of course, the podium is going to be very tightly packed, and you need to make lifts. And she's gone 2 squats. She gets 3 benches with this 120 kilo bench. Oh, sorry, 115. And that is a good lift. Okay, we have Sarah Sanchez. This is her 115 kilos. She was successful at 112. We're going to jump ahead to it. And just a little too heavy, so she fails 115. We have Sophia Ellis. You can see down here, she went 110, 115, 120 kilos on the bench press. And so this is her third attempt. And she's an excellent deadlifter. You're going to see that in a moment. But for now, 120. So she goes 3 out of 3. So she went 3 out of 3 on squats, 3 out of 3 on bench as well. So 6 out of 6. Again, putting kilos on the board. That's all you can ask when you're in this kind of tight battle. Okay, we have Vilma Olsen. She went 115 to 120. Now, generally speaking, a 5 kilo jump on, I don't want to say girls bench, but at these kinds of numbers, my bench to be honest, is quite, I'm not going to say ambitious, but it can be, and it can be quite difficult. And you're going to see that here. Of course, yeah, no lift. So it's just a little bit too heavy. So she finishes the day on 115. And speaking about 5 kilo jumps, Karolina Tongotea, she took 120 in the second, and it looked really good. And the commentators were talking, specifically Joe Wiley, about maybe 5, but it would be a bit dangerous. I personally was also torn as to should she take 5 or 2.5. They choose 2.5, and it turns out to be the right call because this is super hard. I know I've jumped ahead there, but yeah, I don't think she would have had 3 kilos in her. So, at these kinds of weights, especially on bench press, an extra 2.5 kilos can absolutely kill you. So very good attempt selection there. She goes 3 out of 3. And we have Agata, and importantly, kind of I mentioned earlier about the chip. Agata broke the world record and she benched 153. You can see that down here, and now she's going for 156. That 153 is going to be very important, and you're going to see why. She actually ends up failing this lift. Excuse me, but I would almost argue that it makes no difference, and I'm going to explain that to you when we get to it. So just keep in mind that she benched 153 instead of 152.5. She benched 153, and she fails this. A little bit surprising because the second was good. Okay, we get to, these are the bench results. You can pause that and take a look. Agata gold, Karolina second, Sophia in bronze. And you can kind of see again, like referring to the standard from the 69 kilo class. We had a number of lifters, I think, Chelsea Savage bench 127.5. Yeah, quite a good stand in the 69 kilo class, I guess is all I can say. Okay, moving into the deadlifts. This is the end of the opening round of deadlifts. So these are the totals. You can take a look, and these are the deadlifts. So it's kind of easy. It should be relatively easy to read. This is rated in order of totals. Now, you'll see some names here that competed in the B group. But our top 3 battle is between Karolina, Agata, and Jess. Their totals are 583, 570, and 567.5. And you can see their opening deadlifts. They're all successful on the opening deadlifts. And Karolina has a very healthy lead against Jess. What's that? That's 15 kilos, 15.5 kilos. And so Jess is going to need to make up 17.5 kilos. Right, you understand the chip now because she's 15 kilos down, she needs to make up 17.5. The only way that you're going to make that up is if Karolina not bombs, but only goes 1 out of 3. Like, let's say Karolina jumps to a silly second attempt. Let's say she jumps to 250, 255, something silly, and she fails twice. She gets stuck on 583, then just only needs 17 more than this opener, which is very reasonable. And so the strategy for New Zealand was to just add to your total. Just make it as hard as you can. And they did a really good job of that. You're going to see that in a second. Oopsie. All right. Let's take a look at some of these lifts. Okay, this is Sarah Sanchez. She smoked 200. She went to 215, 15 kilo jump. Fairly aggressive, but it was fine. She was super strong. Muy fuerte. Me encantó. Fácil. Todo bien. Okay. Karolina Tongotea. Now, you can see here, down here, she takes a 7.5 kilo jump. I think this was like perfect attempt selection. Again, I don't know if this was, well, I say again because I mentioned this yesterday, but I don't know if this was generally part of the plan. Like, was this part of the attempt selection plan already? Or is this a reaction to like, hey, we're in the lead, let's just not blow it, let's just add to the total. So she goes to 242.5. And this proves to be the right choice because now she adds 7.5 kilos to her total. And so Jess doesn't need to make up 17.5. She needs to make up 25, if I'm not mistaken. A little bit less because she can break the deadlift world record, and there's a bit of complicated maths. Well, I say complicated, but nevertheless, Jess takes her second deadlift of 252.5. And this is important. You can see her total rank is 3, and this doesn't change her rank. So when it came to this round of deadlifts, when it came to Jess's deadlift, she was the heaviest of the group, strongest of the group. This wouldn't actually change her position, but it would set her up for a third attempt where she could potentially load up and jump in for silver or gold. But we have 252.5 kilos, well below her world record of 261.5. And she stands it up. You can kind of see it's a little bit wonky. She slides her legs under the bar to get it up. She gets initially paid a good lift, but this later gets overturned by the jury. You'll see in the replay her right knee especially slides under the bar. I don't know if this is enough to pay a no lift. I think this was a little bit harsh. I mean, like, I question how much was she actually supporting the bar on her legs on that motion. But nevertheless, it is a no lift. So coming into the last round of deadlifts, these are the standings. Carlina is on 590.5. And you can see if you're Jess, the only way you're going to get to 590.5 is if you've got to add 23 kilos to your lift. So she's got to deadlift 263, right? When you've already missed 252.5, that's already looking out of the realm of possibility. And Agatha is on 580.5. You can see fourth place, Dana, I should say, is 30 kilos behind. So we're going to mainly focus on this top three. We will take a look at all these deadlifts because they're great to acknowledge and you might want to know. Now, if you're Agatha, what do you need to do? Well, you're 10 kilos behind. And remember, Agatha is the lighter lifter. So she needs to jump 10 kilos. You can see they've actually both got a chip on the bar. They've both got the 90.5. Let's say Agatha didn't bench that chip. Let's say she only benched 152.5 instead of 153. Then her total would be 580. And if she jumped 10 kilos to 240 on deadlift, her total would be 590. So she would actually lose. And so if she'd had benched 152.5, her last deadlift would actually have to be 242.5. And so because she benched 500 grams, half a kilo more for that chip, it means she deadlifts 2.5 kilos less. And so her third attempt is going to be 240 kilos. Because by doing 240 kilos, she at least gets in front of Carlina. And it forces Carlina to pull for first place again. Jess, on the other hand, has to decide, do you go for gold or do you go for silver? It doesn't look like gold is going to be very likely at all. And also, your bronze medal isn't in danger. So even just looking at this, it's safe to say that Jess is going to go for the silver, especially when she's already missed her second attempt. And she's not looking in perfect form for deadlifts. Okay, Vilma, she took a 200 kilo second attempt deadlift. This is a 205 kilo third. So 5 kilos more. Admittedly, the 200 was quite hard. And it's a no lift. So she ends on 200 kilos there on the deadlift. Sarah Sanchez, she takes 227 to go from 11th to 8th. So pretty big lift. Oh, I forgot to mention this actually. Sarah's lift was overruled and granted a no lift. I don't think I even realized that. So her 215 was no lift. So this is a big jump actually. Maybe a bit unnecessary. I imagine there's going to be some personal reason for this. Obviously, she's so far from the podium that that's not really a consideration. But nevertheless, 500 pounds, 227.5. And she gets very close, but her hands just open up at the top and she can't hold on. No lift. She actually ends on 200 kilos. So bit of a shame to only go 1 out of 3. Now, this is Agata Sitko. This is for a junior world record total, actually. And you can see this total rank second to first. And so her total is 580.5. By jumping 10 kilos, that gives her 590.5. And 590.5 is the same total that Carlina has, but Agata is slightly lighter, I think by 50 grams if we remember correctly. So this lift is to temporarily put her in the lead and force Carlina to take a third deadlift. Of course, Carlina's second deadlift wasn't so hard, and she's every chance to make a third attempt, even if she goes up 2.5 kilos. But you have to put the pressure on. There's no other choice. And this lift is for first place position. It looks like she's going to get stuck and she can't do it, but she finishes through. And it's just incredible. She gets that lift. And if you remember what I said earlier, about her missing that last deadlift, I don't know if it made a difference. She went for a 3 kilo jump. She went for 156 on the bench. Had she gotten that bench, then that last deadlift, instead of being 240, it just would have been, she was 3 kilos more. She can afford to do 2.5 kilos less. It would have been 237.5. And then she would have gotten that anyway. And so, funnily enough, missing that last bench actually made a difference because all it would have changed is what number she had to pick at the end. And she would have picked 237.5 to put herself in the lead exactly the same way. And nothing changes. The only thing that, I mean, like, of course, you always have to make lifts, and 237.5 is easier to deadlift than 240. And you don't know that when you're going into deadlifts. So it's not like you can just pass lifts willy-nilly. But interestingly enough, it just ended up being the case that she didn't need that last deadlift. Okay, we are looking at Sophia Ellis's last deadlift. She goes to 245. This is primarily put her deadlift rank to number 1. It's a very hot contest for deadlift gold medal. And so again, kind of like the same strategy I said with Agatha, you just got to put yourself on first and just put pressure on the other lifters. The other lifters are going to have to match your energy and match your lift or beat your lift in order to take that first place. She gets it, and so she's temporarily in the gold medal position for deadlift. Funnily enough, more than Jess Bittner because she only went 1 out of 2 so far. Okay, awesome lifting there. And now we get to the lift for Carlina. Now you can see the totals here. If you remember, Carlina's second attempt deadlift was 242.5. So she's taken the smallest jump necessary. She went to 245 kilos. This is to put herself back in the lead by 2.5 kilos. And so the Commonwealth champion has come to Worlds here and is under the pump. She's gone 3 out of 3 on squats. She's gone 3 out of 3 on bench press. I don't think we even saw many of her bench presses. I can't remember now. It's been a long day. But at this point, she's 8 out of 8, and she needs this last lift to put herself into the gold medal position. And she nails it, and it's safe to say that she's the world champion. She gets a good lift here, 3 white lights. Of course, pending what Jess Bittner decides to do. But like we said before, it's just going to be too much. She's going to need a deadlift 265 now because she's added another 2.5 kilos. And so Carlina ends up being your world champion. I'm going to let you know now. Okay, we've got Kim Wolford. She's taking a third attempt deadlift here at 247.5. And this is to take the gold medal position back off Sophie Ellis and off Carlina as well. And she nails it. And I was stoked with this. This was an excellent lift in my eye. She gets 2 white lights. And in a moment's time, the jury come in and overrule it and say it's a no lift. Maybe for supporting. I mean, I think that's such... Yeah, it's so hard to say. Maybe lacking lockout on the knees. Could be a range of things. But unfortunately, that gets overruled. And so it's a no lift. So Kim Wolford finishes on 2 out of 3 on the deadlift. Okay, we have Dana. She went 240, second attempt. She got a 262 for the deadlift world record. This was definitely very much a Hail Mary. I would have just gone for 4th because this 22 kilo jump goes for 4th, but I think she only needed 7.5, I think, or 5 or 10 for 4th. That might have been more useful use of an attempt, but I mean, you never know, I suppose. And when Jess Bittner comes out, you can see here, total rank 3rd to 2nd. And so just on her attempt selection, she's jumped another 11 kilos, 10.5. She's basically accepted that I can't win. I'm going to go for silver. Importantly, she can't lose her bronze either because she's the last lifter of the day. And so she's taking 263. This is a world record deadlift, and this is to go into silver medal position. And it's just too much. Just did not have a good day on the deadlift. Sad because she's coming to deadlift 6 out of 6, and so you'd think you're poised for whatever it takes, but it just wasn't the case. Okay, wrapping up the totals. We have Carlina Tongateo, world champion, 593.0, Agata Sitko, 590.5, and Jess Bittner on 567. And you know, I've said this a few times already in these wrap-ups, that these totals can be a little bit deceiving because you don't see the gap there. Like, while Jess looks like she's 25 kilos behind, it could have very easily been a different day had Jess had a better deadlift day, if she got her second deadlift, or if, yeah, something had changed. But yeah, these are your standings, all very good. Excellent lifting. Okay, we're going to take a look at the, whoopsie, nominations for the 93 kilo men. So we're moving to the 93 kilo men's. This was an awesome battle, and it was shaping up to be from the very beginning because the nominations were intense. You can see Jonathan Keiko is on 884, Gustav Hedlund is on 880, Gavin Aiden is on 880, and we have 877.5 by Bulgaria's Emil Krastev. Now you'll know that Keiko, Gavin, and Emil all competed at Sheffield as well. And so you got 3 lifters in the 93 from Sheffield, 3 lifters from the 76ers in the Sheffield. It was always going to be a great day of lifting here. All right, let's check out the actual lifts. Okay, this is, whoopsie, apologize. This is Kwaku Antwi from Canada. This is his 3rd attempt squat. This is 600 pounds, 272.5. He actually had a really good day for the most part. This is his first World Championships, and he goes straight to 3 on the squat, which you're going to see here. Nice fight there. He gets that up. There's no issues with that, and that's a good lift. So he's 3 out of 3. And kind of similar to the, this is Christian with 22.5. Kind of similar to the girl section. The boys squatted really well. All very consistent. Lots of made lifts. Lots of 3 out of 3s. Okay, so Christian also went 3 out of 3. This is 282.5. His personal best is 295, so it's well below that. And he opened really light. He opened at 250, went to 270, and then 282.5. So nice conservative attempt selection there. Maybe too conservative. Probably left too many kilos on the platform. This is Sasha Stenderbeek. Now he opened at 272.5, and his squat opener, if you want to go back and look at it on the live stream, was awful. Like, it was so bad. It was slow. It was weak. The commentators were like, what have you got left, mate? And he ends up going 3 out of 3, 12.5 kilos more than his opener. And each lift actually got better. So, like, his opener was probably the same speed as that. So he's on 3 out of 3. So we've got 3 out of 3s already. We have Keiko. He went 282, 295, and his third attempt was 300. So 300 is a little bit below his best, but when the field is this deep, you just need to add kilos to your total. And I do think this was, very close to the limit. I don't think he had much more left in him than this. You can see it was pretty hard. I mean, maybe 2.5. And he goes 3 out of 3 as well. We have Emil Krastiv, who's gone 277.5, 292.5, and 302.5. And you won't believe it, he also goes 3 out of 3. So he nails this squat. So there's a lot of pressure on these boys now because everyone's making lifts, and the first one to fault is going to be left in the dust. And that's kind of what happens. We got Gustav Hedlund. This is 320 kilos. He also goes 3 out of 3. Second attempt was 312.5. Gustav of Sweden. And nice fight here. Beautiful lift. He gets 3 out of 3. I'm just checking that. Yeah, that's the case. Alrighty. So he's 3 out of 3. And we get to Gavin. Gavin did not have the great squat day that everyone else had. On his opening squat of 302.5, he lost balance as he locked out and he fell forward. You're left in a difficult decision. They chose to jump 7.5. This is his second attempt of 310 kilos. And he nails it. And so I imagine that after the opener, they would have wanted to jump 15, but they chose to jump half that. And I think that's a pretty good strategy. When you've missed an opener on a technicality, like losing balance, depth, when it's a bit weird, stuff like that. Splitting the difference between what your planned jump was and staying at the same weight is the right thing to do, in my opinion, as a guide. But now you're left in a tough decision. What do you do now? Your second attempt is 310, and Gavin is a world record level squatter. He's hit that weight before, and the world record is 331. They choose to take 325, which I think is the right decision, to add kilos to the total, because you just have to add kilos. You can get greedy and go for the world record to go to 331.5, but if you miss that, you're just doomed, and there's no way you can stay in the battle. And so they take 325, and it's a really good looking attempt. And it left me wondering, did he have 5 more? Did he have 7.5 more? Great lift, he gets 2 white lights. But as you know, when it's 2 white lights, what can happen? The jury overturns this one. You can watch this replay. And look, that looks really close, obviously. But when a lifter has got big calves, big quads, the quads kind of like move over the hip crease. And so it kind of makes you look like you're not as deep as you are. So yeah, I think this is pretty unlucky. And I don't think this is obviously high. And I think that's what the overruling is supposed to be. It's when it's obviously wrong, the jury get involved. It's also a little bit funny that Taylor Atwood in the 74s had his third squat good, overturned, no lift. Delaney Wallace in the 83s had his third squat good, then overturned. And the third American in a row in 3 days, Gavin, with a third attempt squat good, overturned, no lift. So he's left on a 1 out of 3. And yeah, when all the other boys have gone 3 out of 3, it's just going to be too hard for him now. We have Amar Kanane, who went for the world record squat. I think this was a little bit of a hopeful attempt after his 325 was pretty bad. In any other competition, maybe you just wouldn't even bother going for a third. But I mean, you're at the World Championships. You've got an opportunity to break the world record. He's hit this weight before, I think, in a local meet or in a domestic meet at least. So he finishes the day 2 out of 3 with 325. And the other lift I wanted to show you real quickly is Gavin Aiden. This is 336.5 from the Sheffield Championships, I believe, in March. And so this is obviously for the world record. And he stands it up, and he gets 2 white lights. It's a good lift. And so what's happened at this championships is exactly the same thing that happened at Sheffield. This good lift gets overturned. And so he got overturned in Sheffield. He gets overturned at the Worlds on a third squat. Yeah, of course it's bad luck. It's just such bad luck. And yeah, really feeling sorry for Gavin on this one. So coming at the end of squats, you can see the squat results here. Gavin, who's I think objectively the strongest squatter in the group, doesn't even get a medal because he goes 1 out of 3. Whereas Amar goes 2 out of 3 and everyone else is 3 out of 3. Okay, moving along to bench, Amar goes 180 on the third bench. We're going to move through these pretty quickly. And it's a no lift, so he's stuck on 177. This is Christian. He opened at 190, took 200, which was a PB. And this is 2 at 2.5, so a 2.5 kilo jump from his second attempt. And it looks good to me, but he gets no lifts for a bit of downward motion. And you can kind of see it in the replay. We can have a look at here. It's 3 red lights, so it's pretty unanimous. We will watch it because it wasn't so obvious. There's a little bit of downward motion, yeah, pretty obvious there. Okay, he finishes on 200. We have Kwaku Antwi with 207. He went 190, 200, and 207, so pretty healthy jumps there. And this proves to be a little bit too heavy for him as well, if I'm not mistaken. Seen a lot of lifting today and this week. And so he's left on 200 kilos. Again, maybe if he took a more safe third attempt, like 205, he could have added some kilos to the total. We have Sasha. Again, like I said, he had a rough squat day, but he ended up going 3 to 3. His bench, he started at 202, went to 210. This is 212 and a half. I believe he's the previous deadlift world record holder as well. So you know he pulls big. He ends up getting this, and this is for 6 out of 6. So some very good execution by the boys. This is Gustav Hedlund now. He went 200, 210, 217. And again, it's a very tight battle. And Gustav actually misses this lift. And it's so close, and his 210 was really good, that I think it's almost safe to say that he would have gotten 215. And you have to have that in the back of your head. What would that extra 5 kilos have done for him in the competition? Okay, Gavin goes 197, 210, 220. So a big 10 kilo jump here. But I wouldn't call this rolling the dice, but it's basically all or nothing now. Like if Gavin misses this, I mean, like missing it, like a squat like that, like costing yourself 15 kilos, going from 310 to 325, missing that third squat is basically over. But this bench is, you know, essentially all or nothing. He does get it, so he adds a valuable 10 kilos to his total. This one is a good lift, and there's no issues there. We now have Emil Krastov. Funny attempt selection, 215, 220, 2.5. You would expect 230. It's very rare that you see this kind of like uneven attempt selection other than like deadlifts going for medals. There's like uneven jumps, like jumping 7 and jumping 10. But he had an awesome bench day. I mean, he is like world record level bench presser. And he smoked that. He probably had another 2.5 or 5 left. And so Emil is also on 6 out of 6. Very good bench pressing. He's on 232. But of course, the big name here is Jonathan Kaiko. He goes for 243.0. And the interesting thing here is the world record was 241. So if he wanted to break the world record, he just would have done 241.5. But they chose to go 243. And kind of like I described earlier with the women, the difference between 241 and 243, although it's 2 kilos, it's effectively like 5. Because 241 is kind of like rounded down to, or rounds up to 242.5, 243. Yeah. So it's essentially an extra 2.5 kilos that someone else is going to have to deadlift later on. So this is a world record bench, 243.0. And Kaiko is the heaviest lifter by a mile. He's 92.9 kilos, I believe. And so when you're the heavier lifter and you have people out deadlifting you later on, the chip is even more important. Okay, he's on 6 out of 6. It's hard to beat Jonathan Keiko when he's on 6 out of 6. So you can see the totals here, or the subtotals. Pretty tight battle. And yeah, you can see someone like, say, Gustav Hedlund is 13 kilos behind, which means if he out deadlifts Keiko by 12.5, it's not enough. He's going to need to out deadlift Keiko by 15 kilos. Same thing for Emil Krastov. He can't just out deadlift Keiko by 7.5 because then he would be 500 grams behind. He has to out deadlift him by 10 kilos. So that extra chip really makes a difference. Okay, we're going into deadlifts. The first round of deadlifts are over. These were the openers. Everyone made their openers. And these are the totals. You can have a quick glance here. Keiko's clearly in the lead. Emil Krastov, Gustav Hedlund on 850. So you can see a tight battle here. And Gavin Aiden, who again isn't having the best day, only going one squat, is on 840. And you have to again think if Aiden's third squat counted, this 840 would actually be 855 and he'd be an equal second. So this could have very easily been a very different day on the platform. Okay, we're looking at second attempts now. Gavin jumps 20 kilos. This is 830, 330 kilos. So very valuable 20 kilos. Big jump. This is the kind of jump that I like though. Even I jump 20 kilos, usually on deadlift open to second. So he gets a good lift. All right, we're looking at Kanane. He's on 332. So he's jumped 17.5 kilos and it just comes out of his hands. He's not able to hold on to it. And I said this yesterday, if you watched the video on the 83 kilo boys, when you miss on grip, it's very hard to correct. Very, very hard. And we have Gustav, he's taking 332.5. And you can kind of see this takes him from fourth to second temporarily, right? Total rank, fourth to second. So he jumps into the silver medal position temporarily, obviously with other lifters behind him to deadlift. And he smokes it. So you're going to think, okay, he's done 332, what's his limit? It's going to be a very interesting battle to come. Keiko takes 337. He's in first, and this lift keeps him in first. So even though those other guys, like Gustav has already deadlifted, Aiden's already deadlifted, even with those lifts, those second attempts, Keiko's still in first. Now he's taking 17.5 kilos. So he's just really adding to his total here. And yeah, making things hard, I guess, for his opponents. And like I said, when you're making lifts, it's always going to be hard. When you're one of the best lifters in the world and you make lifts, yeah, nobody's going to have a chance. Could have probably jumped here, but it's good to absorb this. Beautiful deadlift by Keiko. And it's a good lift. So he's on 8 out of 8. Okay, we have Krastev taking basically the same jumps, 320 to 337.5. And sorry, I should go back for a second. You can see this takes him from fourth to second. So even with this lift, he won't be in front of Keiko. Remember at the subtotal, he was behind Keiko because he outsquatted Keiko by 2.5, but got outbenched by 10.5. So he's 8 kilos behind. And this is to match the deadlift. And so his only chance is that Keiko misses his third bench and he's able to jump at 8 kilos, aka 10 kilos. So you got to watch this and think, does he have 10 kilos left? Potentially. And again, that's assuming that Keiko misses a third deadlift. Okay. We have Christian here taking 340 kilos. This is a 25 kilo jump. Oopsie. Now Christian's a little bit out of the medal contention, having underperformed on his squat in general. Very good from Great Britain. This is Kwaku. He's gone 15 kilos. He's in 10th, and this won't move his ranking. So first world's 342.5 kilo deadlift. Sumo, hook grip, the correct way to deadlift. This is his second attempt. Very nice. Good lift. And the commentators like Ryan Lapidat and Joe Whiteley were mentioning maybe a little bit softer in the knees. You got to be careful. But glad to see the referees are giving them the benefit of the doubt. Here we have Sasha. He's going from 6th to 5th, but importantly, deadlift rank 6th to 1st. He's the biggest deadlifter of the group, so he obviously wants that deadlift medal. When you're not so close to contention, I mean, like he's kind of in contention for a medal, for a podium, best case scenario, but at the very least, he wants a deadlift medal. So this is 357.5, 22.5 kilo jump from his opening lift. I kind of love his style. It's like he kind of like has to rev himself up and then he just goes so quick. I could never do this. Nice one. And so again, you got to remember he's on 8 out of 8. He's made all of his lifts up to this point. And so ending of the second round, you can see that because Keiko and Krastev have both deadlifted 337, that gap at the subtotal remains 8 kilos. Gustav is on 362.5, Gavin is on 360. And so if Krastev wants to win, he needs to add 10 kilos to this, not just 8, because you can't add 8. So he needs to go to 347.5. But you've got to be careful because Gustav could also jump you. So when you're the Bulgarian, you've got to decide, do you shoot for gold but risk finishing 3rd or 4th? Or do you defend your silver medal? You've got a silver medal at the Worlds. You've lost to Keiko. Fair game. Because if Gustav wants to jump Krastev, he only needs 10 kilos on his deadlift. He needs 342.5. because he's 10 kilos behind. But Gustav is lighter actually, so 10 kilos will be enough. 342.5 will be enough. And then you have Gavin Aiden down here on 860. Again, if he wants to get on the podium, he just needs to add anything to his deadlift because he is, I'm going to double check this here, lighter again than Gustav. And so, yeah, that's right. It goes Keiko's the heaviest, Emil's the next heaviest, Gustav's next heaviest, and Aiden's the lightest amongst these four. It's actually in order, funnily enough. And so if Gavin adds 2.5 kilos, he gets the bronze temporarily. If Gustav adds 10, he gets the bronze, silver temporarily. So very interesting battle. Okay, let's take a look what happens. Kanani comes out repeating his second attempt of 332.5. And like I said, when you miss on grip, it's just going to be too hard. And it's a no lift. So he finishes the day, I think, in 9th place, 817 kilo total. Not the day he would have wanted. And this is not Gavin Aiden. This is Emil. There was a mistake in the display, and he is taking 342.5, I believe. Yeah, 342.5. So he's taking the 5 kilo jump. And so he's decided that he can't take first off Keiko by attempting this because he needed 10. He decided 5. He said, I'm just going to defend my silver medal. I want to take home the silver. So he's added 5 kilos to his deadlift. And it ends up being the right call because even this was too heavy, which I was surprised by because I thought the 337.5, his second attempt, was actually quite good. So for him to miss 5 kilos more was a bit surprising. When you miss a third deadlift, that opens the door for other people. One of those people is Gavin Aiden going for a 12 kilo increase to jump into the silver medal position. Yeah, this is for silver. And again, he's jumping 12 to get into silver, but if he'd already had that 15 kilos from squat, he wouldn't need to jump. He would already be in silver and maybe able to pull for gold. Unfortunately, however, it's a no lift. It's just too heavy. It's more than he's ever deadlifted. And so he finishes the day no better than 4th because that's where he is right now. Kate goes in first. He takes a 7.5 kilo lead. He's already won, sort of. You've got to remember the only other person to pull is Headland. And so if he misses this, then maybe Gustav can go for gold. It is quite a jump still nonetheless. But regardless, Keiko jumps 7.5 to 345. This is for a world record total. Here's the totals actually. And you can see Gavin jumped 12 to get to 872 for the silver, but he failed. Emil jumped to 5 to defend his silver. He failed. And we got Keiko adding 7.5 to go to 888, I believe. To bridge the gap even more. I mean, like, look where Gustav is. He's already 18 kilos, 20 kilos behind. So Gustav's already going to have to jump 20 kilos. And if you remember his second attempt deadlift, it was good, but I mean, no one's ever got 20 kilos left in them after a second deadlift. So this is just to break the world record total and to really secure his world champion title. He's already gone 8 out of 8. You know, he's notorious for being an excellent executor in competition. Misses very, very few lifts, and today is no exception because Jonathan Keiko is the 93 kilo world champion and he goes 9 out of 9 with a new world record total of 888.0 kilos. Beautiful lifting. Okay, Gustav Hedlund here, you can see total rank 3rd to 2nd. He chooses to take that 12.5 kilo jump on his deadlift. Let me just see this. 12. If I'm not mistaken, he only needed to jump 10. He's 10 kilos behind Emil, but he's jumped 12. Anyway, this is his deadlift. You're going to watch this while I'm going to... Whoa, okay. Hold on here. Okay, this is stuffing up. If I do this. Okay, we're back in. We're going to quickly go back and take a look at some lifts that we missed. Apologies for this. So this is Krastev. He went 342.5, as you would have heard me say. He's added 5 kilos to his second attempt deadlift, which works out to be the right call because even this was too heavy. So he's trying to defend his silver medal. It's a no lift from him. Gavin went to 342.5. This was to jump into the silver medal position. This is more than he's ever deadlifted. So sorry, we're just going back a little bit just so that we can see some of those lifts that might not have gotten made the screen capture. That proves too heavy for Gavin. Keiko is the world champion with this 345 kilo deadlift. Hmm. And so, like I said, Keiko has already won. He's really just putting the icing on the cake. He is a very good performer in competitions and makes lifts consistently. No exception today. This is 9 out of 9. So he finishes with 888 kilos on the total. Okay, Gustav taking 345. I just had a look at the score sheet, and yeah, I don't think he needed 345. He just needed 332.5. So very odd to jump 12 and a half when you only needed to jump 10 to get into the silver medal position. Proves not to be an issue because he finishes in the silver medal position. He was the lighter lifter, lighter than Krastev, but the Swede is your silver medalist at the World Championships. Good way to finish the day. And so these are the standings right now. This is Jonathan Keiko, 888. Gustav takes the lead over Krastev. Gustav was lighter, and this is what I meant. I don't know why they went to 875. They just needed 872.5. Maybe it was an error. And Gavin Aiden's finishing on 4th. Now we've got one lifter to go. Oh, no, sorry, 2 lifters to go. This is Kwaku Antwi with 347. He's jumped 10. Sorry, he's jumped 10. He's jumped 5 kilos from 342.5. Whoa. This proves a little bit too heavy. And so the results at the top of the table are basically decided. We're going to jump through these. This is Christian taking a 20 kilo jump to 360. He loses it at the knees. That's a no lift. And the last lift of the day goes to Sasha. This is for 365. This is to jump into 4th. I don't think he needed this. I think he only needed 5 kilos increase to get to 4th. But he's jumping to 4th anyway. So we're going to finish this. This is the last deadlift of the session. No, this is exactly the weight that he needs to jump into 4th. I'm wrong. And the person that is currently in 4th before the start of this lift is Gavin Aiden. And so this lift by the German, he's already gone 8 out of 8. Oops, sorry. He's already gone 8 out of 8. And this is to finish a perfect day, 9 out of 9, and actually take the 4th place position of the USA's Gavin Aiden, who we know is world champion quality. And so we look at the final standings here. Keiko, Gustav, Emil, Sasha, and Gavin Aiden in 5th. We have a lifter here, Carlos Peterson Griffith from the B group, who's actually finished in 6th. So these are your standings. Keiko is your world champion. It was an awesome session of lifting, like very, very close. A lot of attempt selection battles having to take place. So that wraps up the 93 kilo class. So that brings us on to a very interesting point, is that we are very close towards the back end of the week of lifting. And so we're going to take a look at our best lifters up to this point. Where are we? This is our women's competitors. So our best female lifters so far is Natalie Richards with her 512.5 in the 57 class with 122 good lift points. Carol Agara is also on 122 good lift points. And so this makes you wonder, should Carol Agara have jumped another 2.5 kilos in the last deadlift? She finished on 207.5. Maybe she should have taken 210 to take best female lifter. And Judd Jacob is on 118. The team points, France in the women's are top of the table right now. They are top of the table. They've had 2 world champions, 2 seconds, and a 5th. They're going to be very hard to beat. I don't know the nominations off by heart for the next few days, but France are on top, USA, then Italy as a 3rd best team, and New Zealand in 4th after the win by Carolina today. Looking at the men's, our best male lifter so far is Jonathan Keiko. After his performance today, he's on 116. Maybe that last deadlift was actually to put him into the best male lifter. I'm actually not sure. Gustav Hedlund is actually our 2nd best male lifter, and Carl Johannesson is our 3rd best male lifter. So yeah, still some lifters to go. Obviously, we know Jesus is to come, so that could change very quickly. And our best male teams, very similar. USA on top with France in 2nd this time, Sweden, Japan, New Zealand. So a couple of days lifting left to go. Can I do this? A couple of days lifting left to go, and we're excited to see the next 2 days. We have in the women's, the 84 and 84 kilo plus category, and obviously the men 105, 120, and 120 plus category. Hope you've enjoyed my coverage and some of my commentary. Apologies for that little glitch there in the last deadlift section. Shouldn't have been too bad. If you've got any questions, leave in the comment section below. Looking forward to reading what you've got to say, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.